afternoon. No, it's not morning. Afternoon, brothers and sisters. I thought we'd take I had thought it'd be a quick look, but it's not looking like it's going to be a quick look, at two passages and then connect them together in the words that we find in these passages. So I'll read it from here because I got my interlinear pulled up here. 2 Corinthians 7:11 is one of the passages we're going to look at. Consider what this godly sorrow has produced in you, what earnestness, what eagerness to clear yourselves, what indignation, what alarm, what longing, what zeal, what vindication. In every way you have proved yourself to be innocent in this matter. So that verse actually connected me to this verse found in 2 Peter 3:12, which at first look at, you wouldn't think the two verses actually connect. But when you get looking at the words, the indication is strong that they absolutely do so connect. So 2 Peter 3:12 is this. It says, as you anticipate and hasten the coming of the day of God, it says here, but the headline says of the Lord, the day of the Lord. So we're looking at the day of the Lord when it says the day of God. When the heavens will be dissolved by fire and the elements will melt in the heat. All right, so we already looked at this particular passage, all right? And the reason is because we understood that it was the way to hasten the day of the Lord was through hard study. To diligently be seeking in the word of the Lord what the Lord desires us to know here in these end of days. And so that's what we have been doing. But the strange thing here is how it actually connects to that verse in 2 Corinthians 7:11. Because it says, I have to use this, like I said. It says, consider what this godly sorrow has produced in you. Now, you know, the thing with that godly sorrow, part of me sees this passage in that godly sorrow. And I'm going to look at it totally, and we can throw the masculine in there too. But I'm going to pretty much look at this from a feminine perspective. Alright? So this is mostly for the daughters that I feel as a daughter I was never fed what I needed to be fed. And not because I wanted my ears tickled, but because there was just something missing in man's interpretation of who God is, and what God's idea of love is towards me seemed to be very lacking in comparison to what it gave to the man and called love. And so I knew that there was something seriously wrong with the theology based on that, because God's love should never make me feel less. Alright? That's one thing I've come to realize about who God truly is. But it says, again, we'll read it. Consider what this godly sorrow has produced in you. So godly sorrow. Watch what it says, and we link this to the daughters of Zion who are called out. They're a select group. They're 144,000. Zephaniah 3, verse 18. It tells us why. It says, I will gather them that are sorrowful. There we have with sorrowful. For the solemn assembly, the assembly of these daughters of Zion, it should be serious, all right? Who are of thee, I know, the 8th day solemn assembly. I think it's a totally different idea here going on. Are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, but then again it may not. Who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. Alright. Now we've looked at that through a series of other videos, alright, and discovered that that is the daughters of Zion, because it does. It says, behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee. Well, at what time is this talking about? It's talking about the end of days, the wrap up. And I will save her that halteth, and gather. This is your gatherer, your spirit, the Asaph, the female assembler in Ecclesiastes 12. Her that was driven out, and I will give them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. Who was put to shame? Well, we know daughter Zion was. Romans 11, I believe it's verse 15, one of those verses. It says, if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? In the beginning, we know that Adam chose a covenant with the harlot spirit, that's death. He did not want one with the righteous spirit known as the daughter of Zion. He cast her down. And so it says, I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time will I bring you again. That's the nation of Israel. These daughters are the remnant of Israel. That's what they're considered as. Even in the time that I gather you, for I'll make you a name and a praise among all the people of the earth when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith the Lord. So here we have, consider what this godly sorrow has produced in you. All right? So what this godly sorrow produces in us, and it comes by way of this feeling of severe vexation by the men on the pulpit, preaching a really male-oriented Godhead, he, that Eve was beguiled, being the weaker of the two, so we're less in some way, is the idea. And it leads to this great reproach that you carry on you as a burden, all right? That there's something severely wrong in this feeling of severe oppression and vexation that is actually designed by God to cause us to begin to pick our heads up and to look for the deeper truths. This is going to lead us to the word that's actually going to take us to 2 Peter 3:14 just as well as it does here, all right? So that word is earnest. So let's look the word earnest up, okay? Grieved here has the idea to be vexed, to be pained, to be grieved, to be vexed, to be distressed, to be sad. Well, there's one thing this current theology always brought within me. Deep at the heart of it was I was deeply grieved. Because like I said in my opening testimony, I felt like my ground was dry. There was no water to water me. It was always for the male. It was always for the male. It was designed for the male. Everything was designed for the male. I was just an afterthought. That's how it was always taught in this theology, and they could say, no, it wasn't. Yes, it is. That is the burden that you walk away with. That is the reproach that you walk away with. As a daughter who has excellent sight and vision and can see this world and the theologies that are taught in this world for what they truly are, which is the subjugation and the vexation of the righteous spirit known as the daughter of Zion. And it's by design, all right? And we know why it took place, all right? To reconcile the world back. That's why these daughters were allowed to be suppressed, to reconcile the world back, all right? But watch what this word earnest has the idea behind, okay? Consider what this godly sorrow has produced in you, what earnestness and what eagerness to clear yourselves. So tell me that don't link back to these daughters here in view in Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 18, and many other passages if you want to open your eyes to the righteous feminine and what happened to her. It says, sing, O daughter of Zion, shout, O Israel, be glad and rejoice with all the heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. The Lord hath taken away thy judgment, and she, that's the Lord, she hath cast out thine enemy. The Queen of Israel, even the Lord is in the midst of thee. Thou shalt not see evil anymore. But we also know why that was done, so that the nations could be reconciled back. All right? So, and that's also in Zephaniah. But this earnestness here is 4:7-10, and this is what it says. All right? To speed, haste, diligent, enthusiasm. Well, enthusiasm for what? Speed for what? Haste for what? And this is a noun, it's feminine. Means quickly obeying what the Lord reveals is. It says his. We're looking at the Spirit's priority. Is she, her, mother, who then indwells the daughters. All right? So it means quickly obeying what the Lord reveals is her priority, This elevates the better over the good, the more important over the important, and does so with earnest swiftness and intensity. So let's go down here, all right, because this is a very important word for us to understand. Okay, so it's from the word spudo, speed, if I'm saying that wrong. And by implication, dispatch, eagerness, earnestness, business, carefulness, diligence, forwardness, and haste. Well, what does this word speed here, which has the idea of haste, from sputo, what does this word actually mean? Well, this word actually means I hasten, urge on, desire earnestly, but watch what it means figuratively. It means to study. Urge on diligently or earnestly, by implication to wait eagerly, make with haste unto what? Unto the day of the Lord. Because this word is found here in 2 Peter 3:14. And this is what 2 Peter 3:14 reads. It says, not 14, 12. I always have 14 pulled up. Let's go back here. Sorry about that, folks. 2 Peter 3:12. This tells us why we are to hasten in our study. As you anticipate and hasten the coming of the day of, it says God, but it's the Lord. My title here is even reading the day of the Lord. I don't know what it reads in my Bible here. Let me see what it says here right quick. So 2 Peter 3:12 is what we're looking at. I'll get there. Okay. This is what it says. It says, does it have a title? I doubt it has a title. No, it don't. But here it clearly says, Day of the Lord. So I think what we're to take away from that is the day of God is the same as the day of the Lord. And we know from Zephaniah, right? Zephaniah 1. Let's go to Zephaniah 1. I was just there, mind you, when I left. But Zephaniah 1 says this. It says who the day of the Lord belongs to. Let me see, can I find it here? This all has to do with Baal worship as well. That's the worship of your husband as God. That's basically what we're told once we understand, once we're able to understand our allegorical overview that God tells us about. She says, I told you who Baal was, and you forgot who I told you Baal was. I'm sure it's here. All right. The great day of the Lord is near. It is near. And hasteth. Well, look at that. We have the word hasteth there. Speeds. It speeds greatly. All right. That's Zephaniah 1:14. Greatly, even the voice of the day of the Lord, the mighty man shall cry there bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble, a day of distress, wasteness, desolation, a day of darkness, gloominess, a day of clouds, and thick darkness. All right. So, but that's not the verse. See, the day of the Lord, you will come to understand the daughter Zion. It is the daughter Zion indwelt by Mother's Spirit. And we're told distinctly that that day belongs to her. And it's 136. And I thought it pops up in many places. I should have double checked that. But it is Lord here, which is 3068. Which is God, which is 2316 in Greek. All right? So it's 3068 in Hebrew. And Mother's number is 2316 in the Greek. But let me see here. Okay, so this wasn't the passage. Yeah, right there. There it is. It is there. So it's actually putting them together. It's verse 7, Zephaniah 1 verse 7. Hold thy peace at the presence of the Lord. That's daughter Zion 136. The Lord God. For the day of the Lord is at hand. All right. So it's still saying the day of the Lord as 3068. So it's always around Mother God. But you will hold your peace. It says, hold thy peace at the presence of the Lord God. That's daughter Zion's number 136. We know this because of the three numbers we see in Psalm 110. And understanding that is Mother here that sits in this chair, 3068, Son, Her son, 113, sits to her right, and she says, I promise to send the strength of thy rod to Zion, and the Lord to thy right will strike through her enemies in the day of her wrath. And her number there is 136. Christ's number is 113. So the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is at hand, for the Lord hath prepared a sacrifice. She hath bid her guests. So look at that. Anyway, these are great chapters to read, to understand Baal and all this stuff. Your husband who wants to be Lord and Master over you. Mother says, I'll remove the name of Baal out of your mouth. She says that I believe in Hosea. I think that's where it's said. I find I'm getting passages mixed up sometimes, and because there's just a lot of information to get through. So, where was I? Alright, so the day of the Lord here in 2 Peter. Verse 12 is what we're looking at, right? 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. As you anticipate, hasten the coming day of the Lord, when the heavens will be destroyed by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. So if we go in and we look the word hasten up, because again, it takes us back to what that word earnest actually in 2 Corinthians 7:11. What does this word mean? Well. Okay, it's 4692. Again, you're instructed to study. You are to study to bring on the day of the Lord. Well, if we're to listen to what everybody says, well, we've got the truth. What are we supposed to study exactly if we got all the truth? Probably strengthen from puss to speed. Study. Urge on. Diligently or earnestly, by implication, to await eagerly. So that's how we are to bring on this day of the Lord. But if we look again at 2 Corinthians 7:11, it kind of furthers our understanding on this. Right? Yeah, it was, I read the wrong one. Speed, yeah. Okay, so I'm on the right passage now. Okay, so consider what this godly sorrow has produced in you. What earnestness, what eagerness. Okay. Okay. Right. All right, so it says, what earnestness, what eagerness, to clear yourselves. What's the word for clear yourselves in 2 Corinthians 7:11? To clear yourselves has the idea of a court proceeding going on in heavens. This is 627. It says here, reasoned defense. It's a feminine noun. A speech in defense. In defense? Of what? What speech? I thought Christ was our defense. Well, it's looking more and more like the daughters had better stand up and defend themselves on something. It says a verbal defense, particularly in a law court, and it's a feminine noun. So it has the idea that it's to do with us. Intelligent reasoning. Properly a well-reasoned reply. A thought-out response to adequately address the issues that is raised. If there ain't issues raised out of this false theology that we are taught came from God, I don't know what it does. 627, apologia, reasoned defense, is the term for making a legal defense in an ancient court. Today, 627, biblical apologetics is used for supplying evidences for the Christian faith. Well, I am, but I'm doing it very differently than the one that they told me it means. In classical times, apology has nothing to do with saying I'm sorry, but rather was a reasoned argument or defense that presented evidence and supplied compelling proof. And it's from the word apologiome, a speech in defense. Vindication. So it has the idea that the feminine here has something to vindicate herself about. That's what your idea. You're supposed to reason and think these things through instead of running to man-made theology to tell you what it means. The Spirit says, come, let us reason together. You don't run to man-made theology and go, well, what does it mean? You tell me what it means. Because you know the Spirit can't reason with my little tiny brain. Which is what they more or less preach us to. They preach that to us. So it has the idea to answer for oneself, clearing of self, a defense, a plea, apology, an answer for self. That's what that word means. We understanding a few things here, maybe? Has produced in you earnestness. Let me read this one, because this one's all screwed up. Consider what this godly sorrow has produced in you, what earnestness, what eagerness to clear yourselves. What indignation, what alarm, what longing, what zeal, what vindication. In every way you have proved yourself to be innocent. So she's showing her case. The Spirit, the righteous Spirit that the first Adam rejected, known as the daughter Zion, that he said, razor, razor to the ground, will build our own stronghold, known as the harlot daughter Babylon, and she'll be our stronghold, and we will write our own laws, and we will subjugate them under us as the harlot that we're going to teach that she is. And so, here we go. Indignation, number 24. This is Greek number 24. It's a feminine noun. What do we have to feel indignant about? Nothing. Everything's our fault. That's the teaching of this theology. I heard it my whole life. I heard it. I listened to it my whole life. What do you think Zephaniah 3 is speaking of about these daughters? I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly. And it's a solemn assembly because it has the idea of judgment going on behind it. It is not easy to deal in judgment with someone harshly. It's not. It's a very difficult situation. But somebody does have to deal with it in order for God to be seen righteous. Okay? For the solemn assembly who are of the, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. Alright, so what does she have to feel indignant about? Feminine. Feeling of anger, of indignation, of vexation. What's a vexation? Vexation has the idea of oppression. You're oppressed. Well, if there's one thing this religion I have always felt my entire life, at least the theology of this particular idea, has the idea to subjugate and to vex and to oppress. That's the idea behind it, under him. And it's from the word aganic tio, indignation. All right. So that takes us to a verb, which means to grieve much. Hence, to be indignant. To be indignant. I am angry. I'm incensed. I feel indignant. I am moved with indignation. To be greatly displeased. Grief, akin to the base of agkale. No, agkale. I can't talk. Watch what this word is. It means an arm, especially is bent to receive a burden. The bent arm, number 43. I've seen this since way back, 2013. And I was asked, would I receive a burden? All right? I was asked that. Especially is bent to receive a burden. That burden here is the children. That's what that means. The birthing of the children through the true theology as gave to these daughters in the very beginning and at the end will birth the children, the body, up into the heavens. You see that in Revelations 12 with the virgin in the heavens with a crown on her head. That crown represents the 144,000 daughters of Zion who are the virgin daughters who are filled with the Spirit. It says in Romans 11, if the first fruits are holy, the lump, the body, is also holy. And it says what? Has Israel not obtained that which she seeketh for? It says he. It's not a he. You run out the words obtained, it means birth. Has she obtained? Has she managed to birth? Right? What she sought for. She sought for her children because she was the desolate woman that no one would listen to. And yet it's told us in Isaiah 54, more are the children of the desolate woman than of she who has a husband. She who has a husband is a harlot that teaches his man-made theology and religion. That he is going to birth you. And yet we're told in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 6, why now do I see every man standing around with his hands on his hips as a woman in travail, and every face turned pale? They cannot deliver the children. Men is not designed to deliver children. Only women are. Alright? And this is all linked to our defense. And to that 144,000, linking to the spirit of the two witnesses that was behind the two witnesses. The spirit of Moses, the spirit of Elijah, the spirit that motivated them. This 144,000 has that spirit wherein they must stand up and give a defense for themselves. That's why they're called the witnesses. They are witnessing to the truth of the original foundation that they are found to be from, as you find mentioned in Romans 11. We'll talk about it. Romans 11. We've been through this many times. What does it say? Of Romans 11, of these first fruits. This is interesting. It says, for if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be? But life from the dead. Verse 16, for if the first fruits be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root, you see the original foundation, if the root be holy, so are the branches. The daughters, the first fruits. That's what you're looking at, okay? And so this word here, ironically, took us to an arm, especially as bent to receive a burden. That's these daughters, representing the strong right hand or arm of God, mother, who will restore back that which she took not away, which are the children. And she did not take them away through lion theology. The harlot spirit and fallen Adam took the vineyard away from her, wherein she says, I was forced to ignore my own vineyard and keep his. That's what you see in Song of Songs 1, chapter 1, verse 6. I'm not going to read it. So it means to be greatly displeased and to have indignation. Right? Greatly afflicted. You think women aren't afflicted, huh? It's a woman's world. Is it a woman's world? Oh no, this is a man-made world all the way. So, but fear. That word fear here is a masculine. I'm not going to look at this one. But longing, 1972. Let's look this word up. Okay. What indignation, what alarm, and what longing. Longing here, 1972 Greek, it's a feminine noun. An eager longing, a desire, and a strong affection. For what? What is she strongly desiring? What does she have affection for? Earnest yearning, affection, a longing, a vehement desire. That's for her beloved. You see, fallen Adam says, oh, God's love is you coming under me, and the laws is made to favor me 100%. Because I wrote them. That's God's love. That's the teaching of the theology. Well, that's not my idea of God's love to me. My idea of God's love to me is Christ and what he died to uphold, which was the laws of the rejected woman, the desolate woman, which is the righteous spirit. And so here we see her earnestly longing for her beloved. That's truly. And by having this earnest longing for her beloved, it brings in you the idea of he's not what they're telling us. he was or is. The truth, that's what we long for when we look at our beloved. We look for the truth of who he truly was, because me as a woman, no man's going to tell me what love is. I know how I want to be loved, all right? And that earnestness within me, that desire within me, is going to show me who Christ truly was. And that's why it brings us all back to the allegory of the key of David upon his shoulder. The key of David will I lay upon his shoulder. That's the mother sending the son. The mother was Israel. She's our original foundation that we daughters actually came from, because we're of her spirit, you see. She sent the son, and the key of David she laid upon him. The key of David was the truth of what heaven is founded upon, which is the law of Mother God, all right? Which really is these 10 commandments. The commandments that Christ upheld is all through the Old Testament, but it's not the Torah. It's not Old Testament law. We find references to at least some of them, I believe. It's been so long since I've done this. But I've certainly written out a lot under my videos, so it's in through some of those. But in Isaiah 58, I believe, is one of the passages. She tells you what her laws is. Yeah. She says, my fast. And she's talking about her law here. But in verse 6 of Isaiah 58, she says, is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of the wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke? Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou coverest them, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh? Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thy help shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteous shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. Now, you read this. These were the laws that Christ upheld. He did not fulfill Old Testament law. You can go through them. He did not fulfill them Old Testament laws. He fulfilled the laws of heaven. That's what he fulfilled. Plain and simple. And you find references to that, like in Isaiah 58. Those laws there, you see Christ actually testifying to this is the truth of heaven by his very actions and what he did. He did not fulfill Old Testament law. He was crucified because of it. And it says sin is shaped by the law. And he was crucified by the sin of the Old Testament law by the Pharisees, who says, fine, if he won't uphold our law, we'll crucify him under our law. And that's just what they did. You see? That's how it works. Okay, sorry, I'm getting away. I better check my time. Okay, alrighty. I'll do this again. Okay, so let's backtrack here. Okay, so longing, that was the last one we looked at in 2 Corinthians 7:11. Now we're going to look at zeal. Let's pull zeal up. I don't think I had zeal. Okay. This is masculine. I didn't look this one up. I might have. Eagerness, zeal, and rivalry. And it's a masculine noun, and it's also a noun neuter. Definition, to have warmth of feeling for or against. To be zealous or jealous. Yeah. A rivalry. Yeah. So don't tell me men don't have a feeling of jealousy against us, a feeling of rivalry against us that led to the writing of the laws, that caused us to feel vexed and oppressed. So excitement of mind. So we have it in a very negative term, but then there's certainly a favorable term here. A positive, there certainly must be. Figurative zeal in a favorable sense, ardor in an unfavorable one. Jealousy as of a husband, figurative of God or an enemy. Malice, emulation, envyings, fervent mind, indignation, jealousy, and zeal. So you have it in a positive and in a negative way. All right? So if he's truly our beloved and he's representing Christ, then he's going to have a love to see us vindicated. All right? And not want to suppress us under man-made theology. Okay? That's not what should be motivating him in his heart. All right? Because Christ's death was motivated by his love that he had for this righteous daughter of Zion that the first Adam had cast down. All right? And chose a covenant with the harlot spirit. Galatians 4:24, these two women are an allegory to two covenants. And then you have two men. You have fallen Adam and you have Christ, the second Adam. Okay. So, longing but zeal for vindication. Okay, so let's reread this again so we get it in clear context. Consider what this godly sort has produced in you. What earnestness, what eagerness to clear yourselves. What indignation, what alarm, what longing, what zeal. What vindication. All right, so let's look at the word vindication here. Feminine. It means vengeance or vindication, a defense, avenging, vindication, full, complete punishment. Well, if we know the adversary here, that was the enmity between the woman seed and Lucifer, the harlot, and by extension, Satan, which represents fallen Adam, who was the accuser who accused the righteous spirit. All right, his wife. That's basically what you're looking at. 1557, a feminine noun, which is derived from 1553, out from and to. 1349 and 1349, justice and judge. Properly, judgment, which fully executes the core values or the standards of the particular judge, i.e., extending from the inner person of the judge to its outcome. All right. Retribution, the avenging of wrong. This is the cutting away of the foreskin. You understand this? Of the men who have a covenant with the harlot spirit and does not want one with these righteous daughters. This vengeance is some of what's in view here. Okay? Because she is now vindicated by clearing herself, by what she evidenced through her haste, her study of the word. She has proven her innocence under the court of heaven's law. Okay? And that leads to her getting a verdict of judgment. She's allowed judgment now upon those men who treated her in an unjust way. All right? So that's the judgment. That's the threshing of the nations by the daughter of Zion that you find in Micah chapter 4. In every way you have proved yourself to be innocent in this matter. So, let's look at some of those words. Okay, in everything, that means in all things. This is the wrap-up of everything. She's gone through the entire word. It says she's able to present her case from beginning to end, and what took place in the beginning and what will take place at the end. All right? Because that's one thing Godmother says. She says, who can tell me what took place from generation to generation? Well, she's actually saying, which daughter of Zion is going to be able to present this case, all right? And have it fully fleshed out by the study in the Word and not turning away and saying, oh, gee, I have to follow behind man-made theology. When it's clearly, it does not evidence the truth. It's a lie, and you can see it. Just based on Romans 1:20, you are without excuse not to understand the Godhead. Go look up the Godhead. It says we will create them in our image. That's male and female. Well, that's your Godhead. Hello. And your female, it's a stacking order. Problem with when they get going this way, they want to stop when it hits the woman and bring her right back down. No, she's the crown. She's the glory. She's the spirit. She's the absolute ruler. And she's called Lord of Lords, Queen of Kings and Lord of Lords. Look the words up. It's 136 over 113. They all want to go he. That just makes you a harlot. That makes you a Baal. That's all that makes you. And you won't go in and you won't do the earnest study and reason of your own defense. You won't do that. So you have proved. This is Greek 49:21. Sorry. It means I place together, commend, prove, I stand with, I am composed of. This looks like the collective of Israel, all right, known as daughter Zion, and she's the one that Mother Jerusalem, the Spirit from above, indwells as the Queen, the Lord of the whole dominion, all right. She formed, holds together, prove, standing. This takes us actually back to the behemoth in Job 40, when this group of daughters, known as the remnant of Israel, they came from the root of the original foundation. So you have your foundation and you have your capstone, which is what these daughters represent at the very top, and they are known as the Lord. The ruler of the kingdom, the first dominion, will be restored back to the daughter of Zion, it says, and there is one daughter as well as the 144. So it includes its collateral form, to set together, to be introduced favorably or figuratively, to stand near, to constitute, approve, commend, consist, make, stand with. So you see that here, the idea of the collective of Israel obtaining what she sought for, which was to prove herself innocent by restoring the children back, which she took not away. So you have proved yourself innocent. What's the word innocent here? Free from ceremonial defilement. You are considered holy and sacred. That's one thing. The word for the Shulamite in Song of Songs, she was found to be pure, and it was a pureness founded upon herself. It was not found on another person. So it was used, I think, only the one time there, or maybe 2 times there. And it does so have the idea of the pureness of the spirit that was the foundation of the world from the very beginning. She's also called, and I know you're not going to like me saying this, the lamb that was slain from the foundation of the world. All right? They did not want her. And she is featured as a little girl. And when you get looking up the word lamb, it has the idea of something with a virginal-like quality, almost childlike. And from your readings, once you begin to understand this spirit, she was very young. And it appears that the kingdom was ripped away from her at a very young age. She was very virginal, very young. And the kingdom was ripped away from her. And she was the lamb that was cast down. She was slain. But again, even as the serpent in the wilderness had to be lifted up, so too must the Son of Man be lifted up. So for those who have problems with the comparison of the serpent, that brass serpent, you understand the seraphim is likened to a burning serpent. And to be a serpent in the scripture, what has a negative undertone, because that's all they've ever taught was a negative undertone. The positive side of it is that they're sharp-minded. It's actually an allusion to wisdom. Very sharp-minded. All right? You're not going to get past her mind, her thinking, her wisdom, her ability to reason things out. That's what the reason's job is to be a covering and to protect her birthright, which is man. And this is what she is surrounding him in the end of days. To surround also has the idea of the ring of power, marriage. These daughters are married to mankind, and they protect him by surrounding him with truth, and she covers him. She's the shields of earth. The Spirit is considered the shield of God, meaning mother, the daughters that she gives man in covenant. And but they were cast down in the very beginning. The very beginning, man did not want a covenant with her, and chose one with the harlot. So to be free from ceremonial defilement, they're holy, they're sacred, they're pure, they're chaste. Wow, what does chaste mean? Well, chaste takes you back to the word virgin, right? I don't know that I wrote it down, but we have the idea of what a chaste is. Virginal, virgin, intact, maidenly, unmarried. Well, again, more are the children of the desolate than of she who has a husband. But we were also shown her given a bill of divorcement. Yeah, because fallen Adam did not want her. And from there she became known as a widow, in a way. I'd have to look at that information again. But apostasy has the idea, it actually leads you to divorce. All right? And I did a video on this. So these daughters are considered pure, chaste, and virginal, and holy, and sacred because, believe this, they actually divorce fallen Adam's theology. And they marry Christ's. That makes them the key of David. That's what it does. Immediately she becomes his key. And she comes out from the original foundation, though. All right? And she's the branches at the top, which you get in Romans 11. For if the first fruits be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. So the root that she comes from, all right, was holy in the very beginning. And that root was the same root that provided Christ as the only begotten Son. He knew the truth of heaven. That made him an acceptable offering. You understand, he was cleansed by the ashes of the heifer. The heifer, the red heifer, actually represents the nation of Israel being sacrificed. All right? To cleanse this one son. And you get the allegory. You understand, we're looking at allegory to the Abrahamic Sarah covenant in Genesis 15:9. The first animal there promised full restoration is the heifer. The heifer represents Israel. And her remnant that remains at the end of days is represented as the 144,000 daughters of Zion, and they are found to be pure and without guile, standing on Mount Zion. And she is the covering and the protection of the body. She's also known as the Holy One of Israel. And then you have the she-goat, that is the one daughter of Zion. We get her allegory all through Song of Songs. She's also shepherding a flock of she-goats. That's these daughters of Zion in representation. Your rulers currently ruled, mother refers to as he-goat. She says, I'm going to cast that mountain down and I'll bring forth my capstone. They are represented as a flock of she-goats in the scriptures. This is your capstone. This is your 144,000. They are chaste and they are pure because they have presented their case before Mother God by going in and through hard study, bringing on the day of the Lord. All right? So, there's a lot more I could add, but I'm getting out of time here. So, properly pure to the core, virginal, chaste, unadulterated, pure inside and out, holy because they're uncontaminated, without spoliation, even within, even down to the center of one's being, not mixed with guilt or anything condemnable. So that's these daughters. And because you see, they discovered their own innocence. Because this theology does not promote the innocence of the feminine. It promotes the guilt of her. That's what it does. And it just says there's one, the harlot. You watch it. Most of them, that's all they ever want to focus on. Just like they don't even know about the pure virgin daughter, Zion, that got cast down by them. Chaste, clean, and pure, innocent. These are that 144,000 with no gall in their mouth. They're virgins. All right? And you are found yourselves to be innocent and spotless and pure in this matter. What's this matter? It is a noun. It's neuter. It means a deed, a matter. So when you look up salvation in the Old Testament, it's going to take you back to deed and matter. What is the word? I'll look it up in my own Hebrew concordance here. It's 3444, and that's usually your word in connection to these daughters of wonder that will appear on scene in the end of days. They present their case. They pierce through the lies. They are not caught in the snare. You get that allegory also to your behemoth. Her nose pierces through the lies. You're not going to entrap her. That's your allegory also to the heifer. But when she's moving in this very potent and powerful way, she's likened more to a behemoth. which is very much a mythical creature in our mind, very powerful, one without equal. So 344 in your Hebrew, it's feminine. It means Yeshua. It's something saved, deliverance, hence aid, victory, prosperity, deliverance, help. They're the great Azir. God is often referred to as your great Azir, your great helper. And the only other time that word Azir is used, it's applied to the woman in her creation account, the great help. And Mother says to Job, she says, have thou an arm like unto God. And then she says several verses later, then I will confess a thing unto thee, know thee not thine own right hand can save thee. She's talking about the daughters of Zion, which is the spirit of the new Adam manifested here on earth. So deliverance, help, helping, salvation, save, saving, welfare, help, the victory, prosperity. The primary meaning is to rescue from distress or danger. It is used to signify help given by other human beings. So these daughters go, their deeds, all right, follow them, right? They deliver. They are the bent arm there, holding the burden. They have been chosen. They're a select group, chosen to deliver the children, all right? And you see that deliverance through your allegory in Revelations 12 as the woman, the virgin woman, with the crown on her head, with the sun at her back. The sun is the glory. So she's clothed in glory. That's the spirit. And the woman, as the last thing created, represented that glory, the spirit, and she delivers the children. She does it all by the 3.5-year mark, it looks like. I'm still looking at this. But the final trumpet sounds, the 7th trumpet sounds. The mystery is revealed. There will be time no longer. The rewards to the prophets are gave out at the 3.5-year mark. And the birthright holder, which is the daughter of Zion, represented as the spirit of Mother Jerusalem from above here on earth, takes back her birthright. And she is seen as that angel that's standing on land and ocean, declaring by Mother God, who lives forever, that the kingdom now is hers and her Adam, her Christ. All right? And so you see all of that wrapped up at the 3.5-year mark. Then it looks like from there, it's pure judgment on what's left. That's what it looks like. And that's called the judgment of God, 23:16. So I don't know that these daughters don't come back in great judgment with the spirit of Mother upon them. Part of it is the first 3.5 years of that judgment is the deliverance of the righteous children. So it says if the church barely escapes the judgment of God, if the house of God barely escapes, and that's these daughters stepping up, proving their innocence, and delivering the children out through the gates, which belongs to the daughters of Zion. We looked at this before. You find that in Psalm 9 and Psalm 24. You put those two chapters together, you begin to understand what you're looking at. And I'm getting out of time, as usual. Okay, so the matter, they prove themselves innocent in this matter, all right? That the daughters, it says, Mother says, you have failed to divide between the clean and the unclean. You get a two-edged sword there, too, with the idea. And she says, you have failed to divide. You clump them all and say, you women, you women, you women. She says, my righteous daughters are here, and they're of me. And they were my rightful rulers in the very beginning. What did Job say in Job 30? Let me see here. Job 30, he says this in chapter 1 and 2. Okay. Job 30. He says this. He says, no, it's Job 31. I always get them two mixed up. So he says, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? So he's saying, I made a covenant with my wife. Why should I look at another woman? For what portion of God is there from above? You see what he's saying there? He's saying, my wife, the Holy Spirit, right? And I made a covenant with her, which takes you back to Malachi 2. Where it says, Judah dealt treacherously with the wife of his youth and began to write laws of violence against her to suppress her and he actually rejected her. Right? So he says, I made a covenant with my eyes. For what portion of God is there from above? And what inheritance of the Almighty from on high? These daughters were her inheritance from the Almighty on high. And she gave man these daughters, representing her righteous spirit, in covenant to teach them the laws of heaven, to give them eternal life. And they rejected her and them and cast them down. That's what the first Adam did. And made a covenant with her harlot. We discussed how that was so, how he did it. It was evidenced in passages like the eagle, parables of the two eagles in Ezekiel chapter 17. We looked at that already. And so here we see her vindicating herself, showing herself pure and innocent of the charges that they have laid against her. And Adam did so accuse her in the very beginning. He pointed at her and he accused her. And he said, this woman that you gave to me, well, it wasn't this woman. It was the harlot that he chose a covenant with. And then he put his own stronghold, known as the harlot daughter Babylon, and said, razz that one to the ground. You find that in Psalm 137, which was the daughter Zion he razzed to the ground. Don't want her in covenant. I don't want her rulership over me. I don't want her telling me what the laws of heaven is. I'll make my own rules, my own laws. And that was the Old Testament laws, which was known as the covenant between fallen Adam and the harlot. And that's what the Antichrist is going to put in play. That's exactly what's going on. But these daughters step up. They defend themselves. It also says they are a divine selection when you get running out your words on your interlinear in Romans 11. All right? It says they are divinely appointed to do what they're to do. Okay. So 2 Peter again 3:12, it's all allegorical, and I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to get through all the words. I would highly recommend you going in and looking at these words in 2 Peter 3:12. Again, it's going to lead you to the understanding that is the fire of God, which represents the law of heaven, that is going to purify this earth, all right? Through the true laws of heaven. Your principle, your elements that's going to burn with fervent heat, is the principles upon this earth. The rudiment and element, a rudimental principle that this world is founded upon, which is the lie of the harlot spirit and fallen Adam, and the lie in theology that he teaches that subjugates us under a man. And it's mother who speaks in Hosea 2. They got it as father. No, it's not father speaking. It's mother speaking. She says, I'm going to remove the name of Baal out of your mouth, because your husband was never your Lord and your master. He's your husband. He's not your Lord and master. And she says in Jeremiah 23, she says, you forgot my name for Baal. You forgot who I told you Baal was. So here when it says the elemental principles is going to burn, she's talking about the founding principles. And they're not actually the original founding principles. I was also looking at these other words to dig out. These men dug out the truth and packed in all their lies. I ain't going to be able to find the word right up front here, but that's precisely what they did. They dug out the truth and packed in the lies. And so the principle that's going to burn here, the elemental principle that's going to burn here, is the lie of current theology that we're founded upon, that states that he is God and he's going to deliver the children. Nope. Sorry. And the coming, yeah, this was important. I really wanted to get to this. I'm sorry I talked so long on the other one. But the coming here, to hasten the coming in the day of the Lord here. Watch what the word here. It says, expect and hastening the coming of the day of God. Well, actually, it's the day of the Lord. When you look at the word coming, this is very interesting for anybody who wants to go in and really take a look at this. It means a presence and a coming, and it's a feminine noun. A presence, a coming, an arrival, an advent, especially of the second coming of Christ? No. This is the second coming of the Spirit daughter Zion, who just so happens to be the Lord that'll strike through her enemies in the day of her wrath. She's the second coming. That's who that is. And everything gets wrapped up at the 3.5-year mark when her children are all completely removed off this planet. And all of that is indicated at the blowing of the 7th trumpet, if you go in and you want to look at that in Revelation. What does it say here? 3952. Be present, arrive, to enter into a situation properly, coming, especially the arrival of the owner who alone can deal with the situation. That's the Spirit. The Spirit alone deals with this situation. And she has promised full restoration back, the dominion, in Micah chapter 3 or 4. It says, daughter of troops, gather thyself in troops. All right? Let me see here. Locate it. Okay. So we're going to Micah. And this is what it says. Actually, in verse 5, chapter 5 of Micah, we'll read Micah 1:5, verse 1. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He hath laid a siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon her cheek. So it's talking about the daughters of Zion here, is actually what it's talking about, who is your judge. We also have discussed how they are the lioness that lays sleeping out in the fields of the Gentiles currently, right now, with the dew of heaven in their mouth. That's the doctrine, that's the truth. And what does it say in Micah 4? This is a promise made to her from Mother God, who says, I will stretch out your tabernacle for you to dwell in. That means she will not only indwell Israel, she will now indwell the Gentiles as well. They become her birthright as well. And we discussed that in the video. But in Micah 4 verse 8, she says, and thou, O tower of the flock. Well, we get her breasts as towers and spoken for in Song of Song, I believe it's chapter 8. Her breast has become towers because now she is nourishing her children with what she was always intended to nourish her children with, which is the truth. So, and thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold, the truth. Stronghold is an allegory also to your argument. So the flock, the argument, or the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. She is the one that is seen being took to the Ancient of Days. It is no son of man, it is a daughter of women. That is who it is. And that is also why Daniel's countenance fell. He was shocked because of all that he'd been already taught wrongfully. And she is promised the kingdom back. And she is the Lord of Lords. And you look the words up, is 136 over 113. She is a queen of kings is what she is. And she is the ruler. And these daughters are your first fruits, who will present their case and prove themselves to be innocent by witnessing and delivering the children, which they did not take away, which is the restoration back to Mother God. So, coming again, a reference to a visit of a king or some other official, a royal visit. It is a royal visit, but it's by the queen, it's not by the king. They completely want, it says, what, is there no king in thee? No, it has to do with deliverance again, and they still put king. They just can't seem to reason nothing out. It's queen. Where does it say? Verse 9. Micah 4 verse 9, they got king, but follow it up by reading what it says. It's a queen. Verse 9. Now why does thou cry out aloud? Is there no queen in thee to deliver the children? Is thy counselor perished, the spirit that will counsel you with the truth? No. For pangs have taken hold thee as a woman in travail. She is a woman in travail to deliver her children. Has Israel not obtained that which she sought for? Of course she does. If the first fruits are holy, the lump is also holy. It's telling you, if the spirit is holy, which is represented by these daughters of Zion, the 144,000 holding no guile of the harlot spirit that was taught to her by fallen Adam, as if it was the truth. And it's not. But what does it say? For pangs have taken hold of thee as a woman in travail. You see her in Revelations 12 delivering her children. Verse 10, be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion. That's the queen. Like a woman in travail. Like a woman in travail. Oh, how big of them to liken a woman in travail to a woman in travail. Wow. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon, where mother promised judgment would take place. All right, we discussed that in our last video. This was the verse. There shalt thou be delivered, and there the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemy. It's a queen. It's a queen that delivers the children. And it's representative of the spirit that comes upon these daughters. And it's a promise. Once you clear yourself, you have the full indwelling spirit and the power. And it says, those who are founded upon this truth isn't going to make haste from it. In the sense that you're not going to run from it. You're not going to be afraid of anything. All right? Because you have proven your case and you have been found innocent by God. Nobody can come up and refute that. They might think they can, but they can't. So this is an interesting word, the coming of the Lord. It's feminine. It has to do with the Spirit's coming and arrival on planet Earth. And she delivers the children, all right? Through her daughters, which were known as her inheritance of the Almighty, all right? Job 31 tells us this. Okay, so I gotta leave. There's so much I wanted to talk about, as usual. Anyway, I hope I said something that made sense. Let me see, what am I clocking at here? Oh, wow, 106. Well, my other one's 108, and I managed to upload it, so I should be able to do this one too. Thanks for any who watch and listen. And try to understand the allegorical, because that is our pure language restored back to us. I also pray that the Lord would bless you abundantly with the waters of truth, with the spirit of truth. I hope y'all have a really nice day.